My name is Virgil Roberts, and I'd like to welcome you to the 5th annual Beloved Community Luncheon, which will feature a presentation of the 2023 C. Bernard Jackson Bridge Builders Award. I think amongst this crowd, I'm probably the oldest black UCLA alum. I graduated in 1968. And when I was here, the number, we could get all the black people on campus in that room. There were about 80 black students. And one of the things that I take great pride in, I was one of 2 students who really created the African American Studies program. And I was just saying to the professor, where'd he go? Dominic, who's in the theater arts department, I was asking him if anybody had ever found a copy of a film that Eliseo Taylor was a professor here in the film department, did of a class we created called CSES 102, The Black Man in a Changing American Context. And what we did is we brought in scholars in basically every discipline to try and demonstrate to the faculty in the university that there really was intellectual content to the black experience. So we had Kenneth Clark, who was a psychologist who wrote a brief in Brown versus Board of Education. We had Sinclair Drake, who was a really well-known black economist. We had Amamu Baraka, Leroy Jones came and spoke. We had just a series of speakers over the 10 weeks of the quarter. And now that I'm looking back, some 50 plus years later, it was really something that was historical. And it's worth trying to find the actual film documentation of that class. It was one of the more popular experimental classes at UCLA. We did it at Dixon, and we had over 500 students that were enrolled. And so that class convinced the Chancellor, Chuck Young, and others that there was something of intellectual content worthy of a research institution to be housed at UCLA. And so the Bunche Center has grown from those roots that I planted along with some other students more than 50 years ago. So I'm delighted you all could join us. When this program first started, the idea was to do something in the community. And so for a few years, we would have this luncheon at the Crenshaw Mall. And for those of you who know the Crenshaw Mall, there was a bridge between the stores. And we thought that was a great place to have a Bridge Builder Award on a bridge in the black community. And that was the genesis, but time moves on, and they wanted to charge too much for liability and rent and other things. And so at the last moment, the luncheon was changed from the mall to here. And the result is I think we have not as many people participating from the local community because, UCLA is not in the black community. Without further ado, because, I could go on forever, I'd like to introduce Pastor William Smart, who will lead us in an invocation and help bless what we're about to do this afternoon. Pastor Smart.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Heavenly Father, we are gathered here. This is sacred ground, particularly to African American people and people of all colors, because some significant things have happened here. So we thank you for allowing us to be here as we recognize and talk about the beloved community. Help us to transform America today. A lot of things have come out of this university, and so allow it to be perpetual now so that we can continue to change America, the idealism, the philosophy of what's going on in America, so we can change it to be a beloved community, to be a sacred space for all people. We thank you for the organizers. We thank you for those that will be honored today. In thy name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Smart. Next up, we have a few words from the UCLA Beloved Community Initiative by its co-founder and director, Vuzi Azania. Vuzi?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and really appreciate folks for showing out. I see, a good sister friend, Colleen Bruton, who's been a part of what we tried to establish back in 2015. I see my sister Valerie Orno. Our children go way back to Uhuru Shule back in the day. Manla Kayise, probably the one member of a cohort of us from the late 70s, early 80s era that's still standing trying to make things happen in UCLA. So thanks everybody for showing up. We got this thing started back in 2015 because no one was recognizing or commemorating the 50th anniversary of Dr. King visiting UCLA. And we thought it would be a good opportunity to bring the campus community together, to make something happen. We screened the film Selma. We rebroadcast the speech that he delivered that day, on and on and on. And here we are 9 years later, still reaching for the sky. Peebo Bryson did a song, so folks in my era and older, they can kind of rekindle some old memories. But there's a verse by a young brother by the name of Nipsey Hussle, who we lost a few years ago. And his verse said, "So many people doing time, who are you and I to play with it? It's a blessing, so reach for the sky." And here we are taking some inspiration from that young man to try to keep reaching for the sky, being aspirational, and trying to bring this idea of beloved community to try to transition it to the next generation of young people coming up, struggling and trying to transform the society that we live in locally, nationally, and globally. So with that, I want to turn it back over to our esteemed elder, Bruin here, Virgil Roberts, and then we'll bring on our first awardee. Thank you.
So we're talking about the Bridge Builder Award. And I want to say a little bit about what is a Bridge Builder Award. When UCLA was first constructed, this was out in the country. And there used to be actually like a, for lack of a better word, like a stream that went through this place. And so part of the campus, where Murphy Hall and stuff was built, was on one side of the stream. And then on this side of the stream, where the quad was built with Royce Hall and the library and stuff, there was actually a bridge that was constructed on the campus to carry materials to come across the wash or the little stream to bring the building materials that were used to construct this building, Royce Hall, to construct Haynes, to construct the library. And so in thinking about an award, what Vuzi and the folks who are responsible for this reception did was to do a little bit of research in the history of UCLA. And we learned that there was a UCLA alum that his name was C. Bernard Jackson. And he was an Obie Award winning playwright and the founder of Los Angeles Inner City Cultural Center, which some of you may know. He was born in 1927, the same year that the bridge was constructed when they were doing the work at UCLA. So the award was renamed in his honor to kind of ensure this kind of enduring sense of equity, diversity, and inclusion in the performing arts, which is what C. Bernard Jackson really stood for. So there is a, do we have the awards? I guess I could show that there's a 12-inch diameter bronze relief portrait of Jackson, and then the UCLA bridge that was bridged across the stream. And that is what's being put in sort of a box to represent the bridge builder that C. Bernard Jackson was and the bridge that led to the creation of UCLA. And so the third Tuesday of April of each year, the idea is to try and honor individuals who work with a diverse community of people to connect our work and our world to a deeper meaning and a higher purpose. And so that's really what the C. Bernard Jackson Award is for. It's to honor an early Black alum, but more importantly, to hold up this concept of being a bridge builder between communities. And so there's an effort each year to find somebody who really embodies that sort of worldview in the life that they live and the things that they do. And so it's with great pleasure, because we're going to shorten our program, that I'm going to ask Carmen if she'll come forward and introduce our first award recipient.
Thank you, Virgil. Thank you, Vusi. Good afternoon, Dom. It's good to see all of you here this afternoon. I'm Carmen Hayward Stetson, and I would like to begin by recognizing the chairman of the board of the Los Angeles Inner City Cultural Center, Dr. Sandy Sheffy. Doc, and my fellow board member, Ms. Rosa Maria Marquez. Good afternoon, ladies. The Los Angeles Inner City Cultural Center, affectionately known as Inner City, was founded in the aftermath of the 1965 Watts Rebellion and was the first minority-owned and operated multicultural, multi-ethnic, and multiracial performing and visual arts institution in the nation. Inner City was a pioneer in colorblind and non-traditional casting, breaking down established stereotypes then extant in the theater, film, and television industries. Mr. C. Bernard Jack Jackson, a UCLA alumnus, was the co-founder, artistic, and executive director of Inner City. Our UCLA C. Bernard Jackson Bridge Builders Award, the first one today, is to a man whose career has been massive and whose awards and accomplishments are far too many to recount here, but I'll share an excerpt in the next few minutes. Award-winning actor, writer, director, and cowboy, Glynn Russell Turman originated the role of Travis Younger on Broadway in Lorraine Hansberry's landmark play, A Raisin in the Sun. You may have seen him on TV in Matlock and How to Get Away with Murder, in Claws, in Power, or as Preach in the classic film Cooley High. But there are so many others. He has won many acting awards for stage and screen, including a Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Drama Series for In Treatment, the Los Angeles Stage Alliance Ovation Award for the lead actor in a play for Joe Turner's Come and Gone at the Mark Taper Forum, an NAACP Award for Outstanding Guest Performance on Queen Sugar, one of my favorites, and the Los Angeles Film Critics Association Award for Best Supporting Actor in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, just to name a few. Glynn arrived in Los Angeles at the request of theater director Vinette Carroll in January of 1967 to perform the lead in Slow Dance on the Killing Ground at Inner City. Over the years, he has been an instructor, actor, and director at Inner City, where he performed in Shakespeare's Hamlet and went on later to receive an NAACP Image Award for directing Deadwood Dick. He's also directed numerous television shows, including A Different World, for which he played Colonel Taylor for 5 seasons. Glynn's commitment to his craft is evident in the depth and breadth of his iconic theater, television, and film history depicted in the screening of his recently completed documentary, The Legend of Glynn Turman. We saw that just a couple of months ago at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. I was impressed, Glynn. Glynn, I'll say to you, your authenticity, integrity, and quiet activist spirit well reflect your friend, C. Bernard Jack Jackson, who would be most pleased if he were here with us today. And at the behest of the late Miss Coretta Scott King, you demonstrate your bridge building prowess through services you provide with your wife, Joanne, at Camp Giddy Up, a Western-style camp for underprivileged children. You have embraced the philosophies of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as well as Jack Jackson and the UCLA Beloved Community Initiative. For those reasons and more, it's my honor to present to you, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Glynn Turman, the UCLA C. Bernard Jackson Bridge Builders Award winner for 2023.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Carmen, for that wonderful introduction. I'm too young to have done all of that, but I guess not, huh? I don't know which came first, beloved or C. Bernard Jackson. By that I mean the love that C. Bernard Jackson instilled in all of us who were a part of his wonderful creation, the Inner City Cultural Center. It was pure love. You know, the doors were never locked. And that was smack dab in the middle of East LA in the hood. I mean, and the doors were never locked. Anybody could come in at any time and had access to whatever we had. And what we mostly had was a great deal of love and respect for our people. And our people included all people. You know, it was a unique experience. It was a unique place in that it nourished what you didn't come to get. What you didn't know you had in you was nourished and brought to the forefront as a result of the careful placing and the careful scrutiny of C. Bernard Jackson. He always brought the very best out in everybody who was involved in his sphere. You were able to do things you just didn't know that you could do. And he gave you the space and the backbone and support to go for it. And he had what I thought you'd think was a quirk or a tick, but it wasn't, because he was always going. When you talk to him, he'd, hey, Jack, I want to direct a play. You always got the okay, because he was always going, you know, and so we're going to do it. Jack said. You know. I grew so much at Inner City. I knew from the first time, I was supposed to only be there for 6 weeks, and to do Slow Dance on the Killing Ground, a play that my high school teacher directed, Vinette Carroll. She brought me out from California in '68 to do that particular play. And I knew I wasn't leaving. I had found a home. And there were other theater companies in New York that were prominent and doing similar things, but C. Bernard just had a way of making it so comfortable to be a part of this amazing company that was doing things that made other people very uncomfortable. It made a system very uncomfortable because the things that he was doing weren't supposed to be able to be done. And that's all because of the love that he had for everyone and the inclusion he had for everyone. He'd sit down at his piano, and there would just, music would come out, and the next thing you know it, you're in a musical, you know, and that was just from him tinkling, you know. So to receive this award on his behalf is more of an honor than you know, and as you can hear from Carmen's acknowledgement, I've been on the receiving end of quite a few awards in my time, over 60 years in this business. But I truly tell you, as I struggle back the tears in my this means the world to me. Thank you.
So Carmen, thank you for introducing Glynn. Let's have another round of applause for Glynn Turman, one of our treasured members of the community. Now I'd like to introduce one of the illustrious UCLA alums, Manla Kaise, who's a little younger than I am, but he's left his own legacy at UCLA. He's going to introduce our next award recipient.
Good afternoon, everybody. The possible letdown of me accepting on behalf of the mayor and her not being able to be here is not lost on me. But I will say that I'm very honored and really privileged to be asked by VUSI to both introduce and accept this award on the mayor's behalf. Virgil talked about some of the beginnings of what we call a Black brewing legacy here. One aspect of it that he spoke to, that he's one of the pioneering members of, is this idea of students initiating, institutional change, right? Not just change on behalf of their peers, but also changes within the institution that have lasting value, like the African American Studies Center. And there is a legacy of that extends to today. As VUSI mentioned, he and I were a part of that during the 80s, and we really did look to Virgil's leadership and the leadership of his peers to inspire the kind of change we wanted to affect at the university. And in speaking of Congresswoman Bass, former Congresswoman Bass, now Mayor Bass, we would be remiss if we did not kind of recognize just briefly the continuing aspect of that legacy in one Simone Anderson, who's here with us today, who continues that legacy of student-initiated leadership and transformational change. She has been an absolute champion, a warrior here on this campus of the likes that we only see ever so often. So if you could just stand up for a second and just take a bow, Simone. She's really been, she's in that legacy. And I wanted people to know that there's a direct line between she and Virgil. From those early days to the present, that legacy still lives in Simone and her peers. And the reason why I think that's relevant to Karen Bass's legacy is because, I had the opportunity as a young student leader to first meet Karen Bass. I have some official bios, but I thought it'd be better and more appropriate for this occasion if I gave more of a personal biography of Karen Bass, through my eyes, because I've had an opportunity to be engaged with her since I was a student leader. I had the opportunity to meet her in the context of something that's not mentioned in her bio, which is her leadership of the Los Angeles Free South Africa movement, where she was one of the pioneers in one of the leading cities in the anti-apartheid movement here in Los Angeles, along with her co-chairs at that time, Mark Ridley Thomas and Maxine Waters. And that's where I met her as a young student leader, and that's where my relationship with her began. I found out upon meeting her that she was a good friend and colleague of one of our pioneers of the anti-apartheid movement here at UCLA, and my big brother and former boss, Tim Gubaney, of the Community Programs Office, with whom she shared a relationship with and worked together in the anti-apartheid movement. So her association with UCLA goes back that far, at least 30, 40 years of association. Over the time that I was working here, as part of the legacy that I spoke to, we have a tradition here at UCLA of developing leaders in communities of color. We've had more than 10 African-American student body presidents here at UCLA, while never being more than 10% of the population. We're not quite the 80 students that Virgil talked about during his time. We've gone as high as 1,600 or so black students, but that's still never represented more than 10% of the population, and yet we've had this string of student body presidents that have been produced here, and not only for African-American students, but Chicano Latino students. The first Chicano Latino student body president at UCLA, a Filipino, a Muslim student body presidents, so that bridge building, that coalition work really has had a home here at UCLA. And I mention it in relation to Karen Bass because as she built her organization, the Community Coalition in South Los Angeles, as she transitioned from there to the state assembly, as she then moved into Congress and now into the mayor's office, UCLA student leadership has been with her on that journey every step of the way. There are substantial members of the UCLA Student Leadership Alumni Group that are serving on her campus, on her administration currently as we speak today. And Vusi and I have learned over this journey that we truly were reaching for the sky, trying to get the mayor here during this time, especially with all the challenges that she's facing in the city, delivering her first budget, focusing the collective resources not only of our city but of the state and the nation on our homeless and houseless problem. That was a difficult challenge, but we did have and we continue to have former UCLA student leaders who are a part of that administration. And so we are a part of the Team Karen Bass, and we can feel very proud about the role that UCLA student leadership has played in her ascendancy to the mayor's office and as well in the coming transformative administration and impact on Los Angeles that we expect her to have. And in expecting her to have that kind of transformational impact, it is not something that is a result of her having been elected mayor. Like so many other first black, first woman, first, you fill in the blank elected official, and we've, begun to experience a number of firsts, across the political landscape. But unlike many of those firsts, it's not because she is the first that we have the expectations for Karen Bass administration that we have. It's because of her history. It's because of the transformative change that she was able to make as a member of the LA Free South Africa movement, helping to move a global issue to a successful outcome. In her founding of the Community Coalition, a transformational organization in South Los Angeles whose impact on the city is all but immeasurable. Her becoming the first black woman speaker of the state assembly and being able to shepherd the state through its biggest financial crisis since the Great Depression. A lot of people don't talk about that. She was Speaker of the House when California was having its greatest financial crisis, and she shepherded the state through that financial crisis. She stepped up on Congress in the wake of George Floyd's killing and led the push for police reform legislation nationally. So when we talk about the transformative potential and the expectations for Karen Bass, this is nothing short of what she would expect of herself, and it's rooted in her history. They say that the best way to judge a person's future actions is to look at their past actions, and so Karen Bass certainly fits the description as a transformational leader, a transformational figure in Los Angeles. And, just lastly, just again, appreciating one connection that Karen Bass and I have. I learned upon joining her on her staff at Community Coalition that she was also a graduate of Hamilton High School, and as am I. So really appreciating the role that our Hamilton alum are able to play here locally. There was once a thing, there may still be such a thing as the Black West Side. So I always have to give a little shout out for the Black West Side. And Karen Bass is certainly representative of that. Lastly, I'll say if Karen Bass were here, I don't think it's a stretch for me to say that the significance of this award will not be lost upon her. On looking at the legacy and the history of C. Bernard Jackson, which I was not aware of until Vusi made me aware of it, I can absolutely say she would consider herself in that number and in that company as a bridge builder, as a transformational figure. And also I will say the value and the significance of sharing the stage or sharing this award event with the great Glynn Turman also would not be lost upon her. I'm sure that she's aware of your work, Mr. Turman. I'm sure that she is as impressed with the transformational Black presence that you've brought to the screen, both the small screen and the big screen, is something that she's well aware of and will appreciate the fact that she shared a program with you today. So having said that, I hope I have both given her bio and acknowledged the award on her behalf in one stroke. And with that, I'll say thank you for having me here. And as I shared with Vusi, I am going to endeavor to kind of learn, we're learning the city process. I've never had a close relationship as I do with Karen Bass with a mayor. So I'll learn what it takes to deliver an award to City Hall. I'll figure out what that logistics looks like this afternoon. Thank you all.
Manla, thank you for stepping in for Karen. I think you did a great job of telling us about her. Glynn, thank you so much for being here. Let's again give a round of applause both to Glynn and to Karen Bass. And so with that, this is like a wedding. Our program is over. The picture taking will go on with those people who need to have their pictures taken, but the rest of you are excused, or you can stay if you want. Thank you for being with us this afternoon.
I say we on the spot. You know we on the spot. I say we on the spot. On the spot. On the spot. Live.
This is real life, this real advice. Real perspective, not always nice. This is real life, on the spot live. Make the wrong choice and you might not survive. This is real life, Belly's life, Ellie life. Everybody wanna live the good life. This is real and got so much appeal. On the spot, real.